I didn't think that was possible as far as climate change was concerned at this point in time, so thank you very much. And the way you handled the presentation, the questions, was just excellent. Your communication skills are humbling. So, my name is Kristen Sheeran. I work with Governor Kate Brown, Governor of Oregon, and I work with her on energy and climate issues. So I'm sort of the person that she comes to when she has questions around, what's happening in climate change, what does climate change mean for the state of Oregon, and most importantly, what are we doing here in Oregon to show real leadership locally and globally on climate change. Governor Brown really wanted to be here with all of you today when she got the invitation. She was both excited by the work that you're doing and inspired by the dedication. She is speaking at a high school graduation this morning, so she's, as you can imagine, has a difficult schedule to work around. So she sent me instead to just say thank you for your hard work and your dedication on this issue, particularly those of you who had to wake up very early on your first day of summer vacation. So I know my teenager is still sleeping on his first day of summer vacation. I've been working on climate change issues for a long time, and most recently more in this political realm with Governor Brown. And in that context, sometimes people ask me, they say, how do you manage to stay so upbeat and positive about climate change? Why aren't you, feeling more discouraged and more beat down about, the situation and how urgent climate change really is? And my answer is that is two things. One is that I've had the capacity in my various roles over the years to come and meet with groups of people like you who are literally digging in your case, planting trees, to do the work that needs to be done to address the climate challenge. And the second thing is that despite all of the news that you might hear about what's not getting done to address climate change, the reality is that we are making progress, and I think that's really important to remember. On the one hand, we have to hold a reminder in our own hearts and minds that we have to work fast on climate change. We have to do a lot more, but on the other hand, we need to be reminded of the successes that we are having that sometimes go a little bit unsung. But we are making a lot of progress that I, even as a climate optimist, would not necessarily have thought possible even 10 years ago. And particularly, I think about how quickly, even here in the United States, and especially here in Oregon in the Northwest, we're moving off of dirty fossil fuel based energy, whether that's coal for our electricity or natural gas, and even gasoline in our vehicles. So there is a lot of progress. It's really significant that you guys are actually meeting this week on this issue. Last Sunday marked an important anniversary. Does anybody know what happened about a year ago last week on climate? Okay. Well, it turns out it wasn't. Do you want to jump in?
Is it the year anniversary of Trump pulling out of the Paris Agreement?
Absolutely, yeah. So how many of you have heard of the Global Paris Climate Agreement? Okay, so a lot of you, right? So this was an agreement that was sort of, it takes a lot to get different countries of the world to sit down to the table and agree to work together. And the Paris Climate Agreement represented such an effort on the part of countries around the world to address climate change, where countries basically said, we understand that climate is a real it's a real challenge, and it's also an opportunity for our countries, and we need to figure out how we can all do our fair share to work together to solve this global problem. And the United States was part of that effort. And about a year ago, our federal government decided that it wanted to pull the United States out of that agreement and try to find its own path to dealing with climate change. And that, for many people, was seen as a real setback. And it was very discouraging, and that happened about a year ago this week. But here we are a year later, and young people such as yourselves are more motivated than ever to address the challenge. And I want you to know that so too are states. When the U.S. pulled out a year ago and said, we're not going to do this whole global climate change thing, 14 U.S. states plus Puerto Rico, including Oregon and Washington and California, our neighbors to the north and to the south, basically immediately stepped in and sent a really strong message to the global community that said, you know, if the U.S. federal government isn't going to do this, then we as states are going to continue to do this. And Governor Brown has committed on the international stage that, you know, Oregon will continue to do its fair share of what the U.S. had originally committed to doing as part of that global climate agreement. And the work that you're doing here on the ground in Oregon is what's going to help us make good on that global commitment. By planting trees, by being ambassadors in your community, you're going to help us get that work done. And then the last thing I just want to leave you with is you guys are not alone, and I hope you don't ever feel that way in the work that you're doing. We hear in state government, we hear regularly, daily, from thousands of students, citizen groups, businesses, including some of our largest businesses in the state, who are sharing with us what they're doing to address climate and to help Oregon achieve its share of its global commitment on climate change. And they're asking us, to help them do more, through the formation of state policy and incentives. So you're not alone. The work you're doing is incredibly important, but there are others out there helping to move this effort along. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys to the good work that you have to get done today. Thank you again on behalf of Governor Brown for taking the time and for pouring your passion and your energy into this. And know that in state government, we're going to continue to do everything we can do to make sure that, that we're reducing carbon dioxide emissions as a state, and we're, staying on a path to having a climate safe and secure future. So thank you.
Yeah, we want to get a stop
Sure.
talking, start planting pictures.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? So come on over.